Hi, I'm Diana from All Things Laser Earrings. I like to talk about how to make laser earrings, different materials, how to paint them, different tips and tricks. Also, like to talk about business, the business side too. But today we are definitely talking about making laser earrings, and we are specifically talking about Kerf. And Kerf has somehow become this, three-eyed monster in the laser world, but it is actually very simple, and I will explain it to you briefly. And today we are talking specifically about doing kerf earrings, so and like an inlay earring using kerf and using acrylic because different materials do affect your kerf of your machine. Okay, and let's start. What is kerf? Kerf is the exact material that your laser will cut out as it is cutting. So you see here, like this is a really good example of that. You see here as the laser has cut out, it has cut out a certain amount of material so that basically there is a gap between what it cut and the item that it is cut. So there is your laser beam has a thickness, and that thickness is what it cuts out in your material. And that is what kerf is. It's that simple. It's basically the thickness of your laser beam, and that corresponds to how much your laser cuts out in your when you are cutting out stuff in your acrylic or wood and making your different items. Why is this important? Because every single machine has a slightly different kerf. It really depends on how strong your machine is. It depends on how well calibrated it is, if you're in focus, on your material. So basically, as a general rule, the stronger a machine you have, the smaller your laser beam is going to cut. Like basically, the more precise your laser beam is. But if you have a weaker machine or you're not quite in control of everything that machine is doing, maybe your focus is a little bit off or something's going on with your mechanics, your kerf and your laser beam will probably be a little bit wider, making your kerf wider. So, is there an easy way to figure this out? There is, and I will in the description I will point to another longer video that I've done on this. But today we are talking about trial and error, and basically we are talking about trial and error because when you are doing kerf with acrylic, and especially acrylic on acrylic, neither acrylic in general is not very forgiving, unlike wood that has like some pliability to it. And when you're doing inlay earrings, sometimes you can kind of smush it in there. It just has more give. Acrylic does not have give as a material. It is a hard material. So you have to make sure that your kerf is perfect to the acrylic that you are using in order for your inlay to work perfectly. And what happens? So there are many things that happen, but the most general thing is that every acrylic kind of works in a different way. So if you are trying to do a project where you really want it to be snappy and fast, you can figure out your kerf and maybe use materials all from the same vendor, because all vendors tend to have more or less the same thicknesses of materials, although acrylic is all kind of made the same in general. Even that's not true. But I just made a big inlay sign, which I will also point to in the comments. And I used all materials from the same vendor, and it made my project so much faster because everything cut in exactly the same way. And so I only had to figure out my kerf once. So I'm going to show you here just on this really simple project that I made. It's a really fun like mirrored inlay earring, where it's like mirror, mirror on the wall, as we all know, that famous fairy tale. But I'm going to show with exactly the same file how I've had to change the kerf according to what material I am using. And I will talk about the different reasons why. So the one way you can do this to easily figure out exactly what your kerf is, you can create your own file. It's not showing very perfectly here. See if I can, here we go. It's a little bit. For one, it's mirrored. I'm sorry, you guys. I mirrored the design, but forgot I also had a mirror, like how I was going to show this, because I was engraving on the back. So, and I also have a video that I can point to, that how to properly engrave on mirrors so that you don't need a paint fill. So what I did is I cut out my pieces in different sizes. I have my original just here to show. And then I have a kerf of 0.5, a kerf of 0.7, a kerf of 0.9. Most maybe that's not even true, but in general, people start at a kerf at around 0.7, 0, and this is wrong. This is very wrong. Actually, I just realized. So it's not 0.7 at all. So to start off with, kerf will be 0.005. It is a minuscule amount. So this should say 0.005, 0.007, 0.009. And most people's kerf, or in general, that's what's said, is around like 0.007 or 0.008. So that's generally a good starting point. So what you can do to figure out the kerf of your materials that you are using, you can create one of these plates. And if you don't know how to do that, I also have a video on showing you how to do that in LightBurn. Basically, you're creating an offset of exactly this, outwards of 0.005. And then you can test your materials. This is a very hands-on experience. So here we go. And these are all slightly different. Even the two blacks, they're different materials, which is what is interesting. So I generally, my kerf is 0.005. So go in here. I have blue tape to hold them all together so they don't all fall all over the place. And always remember that there is a right way up on your acrylic, because your machine cuts at an angle. Your machine does not cut straight down. Oops, that's a terrible straight down. But let's take this away. Your machine does not cut straight down. Your machine cuts at a slight angle. At a very slight angle, but it is enough to affect how your insert will go into the frame. So make sure you have it the right way up. And so now I am going to fit this in. Yep, the right way around helps. And this is 0.005. And on this one, it's interesting. It is not fitting in at all. And one of the main reasons of that is because I reversed engraved this, is that my slant is going in the wrong direction. So for this material, 0.005 is too big. So I actually have to go down a bit. I could test out my original and see. Sometimes it's funny, like when you reverse engrave. So reverse engraving is something you have to take into consideration because your cut is in the wrong direction. So it is going to be tighter. Sometimes the original works on my machine. I'm going to go in. It went in. It actually is not that bad. But, it could be a little bit tighter. You always want it to be tight, especially on earrings, because they're going to be rattling around when you wear them. So I have this one, which is, so that's how you start. So I started with the 0.005, right? Which is this. Did not work very well. So then from there, what do? You figure out in which direction you need to go, right? So if it is not fitting, if it's too big, you need a smaller, you need to go down. You need a smaller kerf. If this was falling through, I would then go up to the 0.7. So this 0.005 did not work. So I made one even smaller. And I actually made one which was 0.0025. Because I tried the original and it fit in there, but it could be snugger. So I want it to be really snug. So I got this and I put it in. And it is very snug. Like this is exactly here. Wait, can you hear it crunching? You want it to crunch like that. You want it to be crunchy. You want to hear the acrylic like really meeting each other. And I know that this earring is not, the inlay is never going to fall out of this earring unless someone really comes in here and really makes it. But this is a very snug fit, and this is how snug you want it to be. Like I am like pushing on both sides, it's not going anywhere. And so on this earring, on this acrylic, 0.0025 worked perfectly, even though my offset is generally 0.005. But let's try other materials. So what's very interesting is that all acrylics kind of cut a little bit differently. Some, I don't know what the correct terminology is, but I call it a little bit more melty. Like this one is definitely a little bit more melty. So I like, but it is also a shimmer, so it has glitter in it, so it needs, my machine needs to be hot. Like if I just have it on my regular acrylic setting, it will not cut through. So, and I need to cut through a little bit hotter, but it is a little bit melty. So I feel that it removes a little bit more material than it should. And so when I then go in with this one, on this one, oh, actually this one's also a little too tight. Interesting. This is the original. Once again, the original. Huh. Normally on this one, my Kerf is bigger. And that's why I'm a little surprised. Let me try on this one again, 0.05. Nope. So this is interesting on all of these today. It was smaller than a 0.05. And yet I felt like on some of these, it actually went in. Let me see on something, on these other ones I have here. No, today my Kerf was 0.0025. So basically I needed this, and it's like the original size actually fits in okay, a little loose. So I needed to go to that 0.0025. I thought I would show you guys how different materials react a little differently, but they're all actually on this one. You see, there we go, 0. So these are slightly different blacks, different companies. One's a matte, one's a shiny. And here, okay, you see how the 0.5 actually went in, and it's actually not that tight. So I would generally probably go up. I have a feeling the 0.7 is going to be a little too tight on this. But no, actually 0.007 is perfect for this. Interesting. So you see, so this is, even though they're both black, they are taking slightly different curves. And why is that? There are several different reasons for that. I've already mentioned a couple. One, you have to make sure, for one, that when you are cutting, that your material is completely smooth. If you are cutting your acrylic and you have ridges, that will obviously like decrease your curve because that is extra material. And the problem with that is that you might actually not get a very snug fit. So make sure you lower your power a little or decrease your speed a little, and then allow the laser beam to actually melt your acrylic as it is cutting to create a very smooth edge to your cut. The second reason, types of acrylic. So some just cut some cut, I don't know if fast is the right word, but some just like cut through more like butter, and it actually, like, you can see it a little bit like melty, like really melty, even though you really have to have a higher power because, for example, this is a shimmer. Some just cut like butter. Like these ones that I have here, they cut so well, I don't even need to, I can almost just have it on a wood setting. Of course, now all of these are fitting in here, so I don't know what I was doing before. It's all proving my point now, that they needed a bigger curve. So some acrylics, like this one, cuts really well and really easily. And then other acrylics, sometimes you need to do a second pass through. And if you have to do a second pass through on your acrylic, you are probably increasing your curve because you are removing a little bit more material. So take that into consideration. Obviously, also the thickness of your acrylic. Some manufacturers just have a thicker acrylic than others. I've already talked about like the right way up, and then also the type of insert you have. So if you have like an oval or something round, obviously that's going to go in a lot more easily than if you have like something that's super jagged like here. Like anything with jagged lines is going to be snugger, and your curve has to be spot on in order for this to fit perfectly. And this one fits perfect. This one's also not going anywhere. And then what I mentioned, like when you reverse engrave, you are actually, your material is not the right way up. So you might have to decrease your kerf a little in order to get it to be snug. And I think I've mentioned everything. Also, remember to remove your, don't ever test with, like here I had it, which one of these. I still have the masking on. So don't test with your masking on, because masking also like is also filling in some space. So you might think you have a really snug fit, but then once you remove the masking, it's falling out. So make sure you've removed all your masking before you fully test your inlay. And then once again, if you have any questions, let me know. Any comments, put them below. Any of your personal experience, what you've figured out, you're on your own, testing things out on your own. And yeah, if you want to join a fun community where we share projects and I share my tutorials, you can join me on Facebook at All Things Laser, or you can join my membership at allthingslaserearrings.com. And thank you so much for watching.